What's up? Welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here with a new pod. What's going on in pop culture right now? Catching up. I was away last 2 weeks. I ran the Studio Ghibli rankings. Check that out. If you missed it, put a lot of time into that one. But now I'm back talking about what's been coming out. Got a ton of music to get to here. Olivia Rodrigo, James Blake, Burna Boy, Tinashe, V from BTS. Heavy hitters, all of them. Excited to get into that. Also going to talk about this new film, No More Bets, Chinese blockbuster film, $500 million at the box office already. So a lot of significant things there. And yeah, I'm trying to catching up on some more stuff in the weeks to come. I missed out on the One Piece drop from Netflix. What we do in the Shadows wrapped up, etc. So we'll see about that. But yeah, make sure you subscribe, youtube.com/nostalgiapod, linktree.com/nostalgiapod. Check the links below. Get the pod anyway you can. Just get it. See the best of 2023 Spotify playlist for my favorite songs of the year, updated weekly. And yeah, let's get into it. What's up? Welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here with a review of Burna Boy's 5th album, I Told Them. First album since Love Domini last year. Of course, Twice as Tall came out in 2020. And I think these now 3 albums are the first set of albums since Burna Boy really blew up and became a really mainstream international star off the strength of his African Giant album. Nowadays, Burna Boy is the face of Afrobeats music, the face of Nigerian music, and he is at the forefront of this music becoming more global and more accepted and more popular elsewhere in the world, especially in the Western world. And I've certainly been a fan of Burna Boy to this point. You know, I thought Twice as Tall from 2020 was absolutely spectacular. And last year, I didn't like Love Domini quite as much as a record. But Last, the single off that album, was actually my song of the year in 2022. I thought that was just a jubilant, triumphant song. Amazing Toni Braxton sample. Big fan of it. So needless to say, new Burna Boy album, I Told Them, gets me excited. And you know, it's coming at an interesting time for Burna Boy because he is, I think, getting increasingly polarizing in the things he says. He has had some controversial takes, partially about Afrobeats as a genre, kind of denigrating the quality of the music from his peers and saying, I believe his quote was about most accurate Afrobeats music lacks substance. I believe he said that to Zane Lowe. Definitely a charged statement to say about your peers. He also has, I think, kind of waded into some more societal issues, comments. You know, he's a big proponent of Pan-Africanism and a united Africa and things like that. But some of the other things he says in support of, you know, a noble ideal as such doesn't seem to quite add up. So he's definitely ticked some people off recently, and he's had some, I think, some troubles. You know, like those minor legal issues and scuffles happen as well. So anyway, Burna Boy, some things have been going on. Yet I Told Them, you know, it's funny. Like this album, I think the general sentiment about it lyrically is a Burna Boy victory lap. You know, he's made it. He's the guy. You know, and he's someone who, in fact, often pushes back on like the Afro beats name nomenclature for Nigerian music, and he likes to, you know, put himself forward as the face of Afrofusion, this subgenre of Afrobeats, or really this umbrella of Afrobeats that also involves other genres like R&B and dancehall and hip hop. And I think that's all fine and good. What's interesting to me though is I Told Them, you know, I think I like this album as a listen more than Love Domini. Not nearly as strong as Twice as Tall though. Um, you know, lyrically, he doesn't get into some of the, I think, strong opinions he has about the world. Like, he doesn't talk about his Pan-African beliefs. It's not really on this. This is an album about flexing, you know, for the most part. I told them, I told you so, you know? That's fine. I think some of the best songs on this album are really awesome. It's just kind of a weird juxtaposition. Do you have, like, a very opinionated guy who doesn't seem to have much interest in putting those opinions in his music? And not necessarily that that's a bad thing, but to me, it's a missed opportunity, you know, because maybe he does have more to say and it could come out in his music. But to this point, we're not really getting that. So that kind of stood out to me, given the situation Burna Boy finds himself in. You know, um, that situation also involves him playing stadiums worldwide. Again, the guy is killing it. Starting right off with the first track, I Told Them featuring Jizza, and then later on at the end, you have 12 Jewels featuring RZA. As much as I love to hear from the Shaolin, shout out Wu-Tang Clan, felt very tacked on, these kind of like spoken word, like outros to the song and, messaging from the Wu. Like, I don't know. It felt very much like added on. Didn't really feel like part of the song or part of the rest of the album. So those didn't really work too much for me. But I gotta say, track 4, Sitting on Top of the World, featuring 21 Savage, an absolutely epic Brandy sample. So catchy. Man, that song is awesome, and it gets that beat. The background vocals, from the sample, just so catchy. Like, I think background vocals is like the trick these days to get my attention. I don't care. I think that song is absolute blast. I don't even need the 21 feature. I think Burna Boy and the sample are doing all the work you need to do. But 21's still pretty solid on the feature, as he always is. So I really like that one. Also, we have another big feature on here. You have Cheat on Me featuring Dave. Of course, Dave and Burna Boy linked up on Dave's album 2 albums ago with the song Location. Absolutely monster hit, especially in the UK. Now Dave returned the favor, featured on a Burna Boy album. I think Cheat on Me also really good. Another like really catchy beat, with these like layered, like sung vocals, not from Burna. Like, it just sounds so good. Of course, Dave, you know how he raps, but even like kind of the substance of this one too, like about cheat on me. I thought that one really hit. City Boys, which I believe was one of the early singles, it's been blowing up on TikTok and whatnot lately. Another one, like, lyrically, the City Boys stuff is a bit toxic, obviously, but the song sounds really good because it's sampling Jeremiah's Birthday Sex. You really speed up that sample with the keys, the iconic keys from Birthday Sex. Sounds really good. And Burna kind of crushes it. Those 3 songs I thought were awesome. I also really liked Tested, Approved, and Trusted. I thought the singing from Burna Boy was really good on that. The Big 7 was quite good as well. The only song I really disliked, I have to say, would be Thanks, featuring J. Cole, the second to last track. Just because the J. Cole verse is so grating, so annoying. That is the worst of preachy Cole, the worst of I'm smarter and better than you, I'm J. Cole. Talking about how because of his accomplishments and the things he's done for others, he thus can't be criticized. It's like, dude, please. Like, also, I don't know why, like J. Cole's not the kind of guy that like fit the mold the way someone like him and Dave link up, Burna Boy and Dave. Like, just kind of felt a bit incongruous as a collab anyway, and the verse stinks. So, don't like Thanks. No thanks, let's say. But yeah, City Boys, Cheat on Me, Sit on Top of the World, Tested, Approved, and Trusted, Big 7. Some joints on this one. Again, it's not as succinct a record, not as, I think, bombastic and like grabbing you the way Twice as Tall was or African Giant before it. But I think for what it is, as the Victory Lap Burna album, as the 5th Burna album, it's pretty good. So shout out Burna Boy. I Told Them. He did in fact do that. Let me know, how'd you feel about this Burna Boy record? I'm coming to it a little bit late, but I really wanted to make sure I got to this one just because he's a significant artist. You gotta pay attention to him. And I hope he continues to do what he's doing, which is bring, his music, his culture to the world and be a big part of the globalism of music. We really like to see it. But let me know, how'd you feel about this album? And for more music reviews, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. What's up? Welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here with a review of James Blake's 6th album, Playing Robots Into Heaven. Of course, everyone knows James Blake at this point because he's become think, quite the pop force, quite the super producer, quite the significant artist for his work with others. And despite not being quite as popular as a soloist the way the people he works with often are, James Blake, of course, gets a lot of attention as a musician because he's just a very unique individual who's been consistently engaging for the last 10 years, making kind of avant-garde pop music and really kind of bending his sound uh, across albums, and twisting that all and around. And what's so interesting and inviting, I think, about Playing Robots into Heaven, his sixth album, is that James Blake is largely returning to the sound of before his debut album, his like early EPs. And James Blake is returning to the club, which is not something I would have seen coming given the sound of his last few records and the artists he generally mixes it up with. I didn't see that coming, And this is 11 songs, 43 minutes of just kind of weird shit, It's cool. It's certainly unique. It sounds cool, and I think what's nice about it is it still has like the textbook trademark James Blake vocal touch, which is James Blake's love for pitching up and twisting around and changing his own sung vocals to match what kind of beat he's laying down. And you still get that on this album. I think it's to great effect because it's on these, loopy EDM beats, but these are not boring like trance beats or anything like that. It's pretty engaging. There's a lot of mix-ups and switches and breakdowns and whatnot. So I think it's definitely worth multiple listens if it grabs you, because I think there's a lot going on to this. I think track 2 right away got my attention, Loading, with, again, those modulated James Blake vocals and just an incredibly catchy synth line. Tell Me. Again, the beat really grabs you. Almost kind of reminded me of like Darude's Sandstorm in a certain sense. Again, not something I would have seen coming from James Blake the past few years. Fallback, that's one where like the switch up happens in the second half and you get like these vocals coming in, picks up even further, a big build, the kind of the classic like electronic like song progression. Really enjoy that one. He's Been Wonderful, I thought was good. Big Hammer as well. All these right in a row. These 5 of the first 6 songs. Big Hammer, again, like these ear-catching vocals. The last song, Playing Robots into Heaven, title track, like it's interesting. And I think James Blake, I'm not sure necessarily what to make of him going in this direction. Is Blake perhaps peeling back from his solo pursuits? His last album was, I think, the most mainstream inviting, most broadly appealing, and this is definitely not that. And I don't know, he keeps you guessing, which I think is what's so cool about him. He doesn't really have a true musical peer as a result, and I love him to keep working with others just because sometimes he mixes up some cool stuff. He's certainly in demand in that regard, but honestly, probably one of my favorite James Blake albums, the last handful, to be honest. Kept me engaged, surprised me. Definitely felt like I needed to re-listen to things just to catch what was going on, the production side of things, hearing the variety of the vocals. There's a lot to it, and that's what you want from James Blake. But let me know, what was your favorite aspect about Playing Robots into Heaven? And for more music reviews, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. What's up? Welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here with a review of Tinashe's 6th album, BB Angel, BB/Angel, Baby Angel. Her 6th album, Tinashe's first album since 333 from 2021. This would be Tinashe's 3rd album since leaving RCA Records and going independent. And I like this album. What immediately struck me about it was how short it is. This is 17 and a half minutes long. At almost 21 minutes long, 7 tracks. Why is she calling this an album? It's just such a weird inverse to me, because if you remember, Tinashe, when she had those label issues on RCA, and she's an artist who did not blossom until leaving the restrictions of the label system as an R&B artist. Tinashe had like issues with like Night Ride, I believe, being characterized by the label as a mixtape and thus not fulfilling her contract requirements, right? Why then are you like putting the restriction on yourself when you're independent and calling something that's clearly like just an EP or barely beyond an EP and calling it an album? I don't know. It again, like the definition of an album is increasingly meaningless in the streaming environment. People know this, but it just immediately brought me back to the inverse of what happened back when she was struggling with the RCA management. Nonetheless, Tinashe, I've been a big fan of hers for a while, especially these last few albums, Songs for You and 333. Tinashe has continued to blossom and make the best music she's ever made as an independent artist. Just giving you that kind of avant-garde R&B music and establishing herself, I think, as a cult R&B star. Not as successful or mainstream as some of her peers, but certainly very successful and very, I think, widely regarded at this point. And with BB Angel, again, I think this is probably the most, let's say, like lo-fi, I guess, of her recent music. Songs for You definitely had a bit more of the banger stuff with songs like Link Up and Hopscotch. We don't really have that kind of sound on this. This is more following the trajectory of what happened with 333, where it's Tinashe on kind of modest, almost minimalist beats at time, and just kind of doing her R&B thing, but like it's really good. That's what she does. The lead singles Talk to Me Nice, I think, is quite catchy. The second single Needs is incredibly catchy, fun video with that. Yeah, like they're just, I think Tinashe just as a performer, especially, in the videos, as a live performer with the dancing and the choreography, like I think it's very inviting R&B music where it's, it's a lot of the stuff you associate with her. It's like, it's sex jams, it's kind of fun, relationship tinged stuff, but her performance, like I think she's really found her sound as a vocalist and just kind of knows what beat she likes at this point, and it sounds great. I think what's interesting is the song, the track 4, which is about as minimalist as it gets too, because like even the lyrics and the songwriting itself on the song is very understated, but there's something about that song that still grabs you. There's something still kind of catchy about it. I thought None of My Business towards the end as well, pretty cool. And I think my biggest issue with the album is I just would have liked more tracks. Like Needs is closer than you have to a banger on this. I like Needs a lot. I could have used a few bangers. I only got 7 tracks. It's been 2 years since the last album. Maybe this means there's something else on the horizon, given this was a short release. I don't know. I'm excited to see Tinashe on tour in about 2 months. Never seen her before, so that'll be cool. And of course, I'll get to see a lot of her older songs, because again, there's only so many new songs with BB Angel. Nonetheless, I think it's a successful release, and Tinashe continues to prove that under her own creative direction, sans label involvement, she's making the best music she's ever made, and is one of the litany of female R&B voices we have right now. It's such a rich, lush space for new music, and Tinashe is a significant aspect of that. But let me know, how did you feel about BB Angel? What was your favorite song? And for more R&B reviews, pop reviews, music reviews, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. What's up? Welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here with a review of V's debut album, Layover. V, of course, 1/7 of BTS, the latest BTS member to drop a solo project since BTS announced its temporary hiatus, leading to the mandatory military service for all Korean males. And V is following up, let's see, RM and J-Hope's albums in 2022, and then this year we got the Jimin album, the Suga album, the single from Jungkook's 7, which is a massive track. Of course, the Jin single at the end of last year as well. So I think a lot of people were anticipating this one, just due to the nature of it being a new BTS solo album. And V, aka Taehyung, he's someone who I think I had less anticipation for solo work, just because I think V, kind of like Jin, is one of the least like vocally significant members of BTS, not necessarily shades at him, but like he's very rarely like the featured the member of certain songs. He's had a solo song on a BTS album here and there, but in general, I think he's kind of understated as a vocalist. Noticeable for like the deeper register compared to some of his peers in the band. Kind of like that baritone. It's not necessarily a bad voice, but like I feel like he's almost utilized more for dancing. I think probably the most significant like vocal moment I can think of for V would be the mic drop live performance they did during the pandemic, where the outro part of mic drop, V's this very passionate, like very memorable vocal performance. And in general, I think that live performance video is awesome, so much better than the studio version. But yeah, V, he's, I was curious what would be interested in, what would be, in on this, and it's being called his debut album. Spotify's calling it an EP. It's only 6 songs, 17 and a half minutes. Really 5 songs with 2 different versions of the song Slow Dancing. Nonetheless, I started to get more interested in Layover when I realized V had actually said that he had previously trashed and gotten rid of previously recorded solo music he had made. If it wasn't good enough, he's just not going to put it out. And he got rid of it, he deleted it. And I think that's actually quite admirable. We're in the age of a lot of artists packing on the track list to gain streams and just throwing out lots of music and lots of projects to stay relevant and to chase TikTok success and whatnot. It's kind of a refreshing sentiment to get from an artist, especially someone who's so famous and successful and has a baked-in fan base the way V, as a member of BTS, does. Just to kind of hammer that point home, V was the fastest person ever to get 60 million Instagram followers. The guy is incredibly famous as one of the members of BTS. And also, I think probably the most exciting thing about the lead up to Layover was it was announced that V was going to be working with Min Hee Jin, who runs Adore, one of the sub labels over at Hybe, of course, the parent label of BTS. And Min Hee Jin, of course, is the creative force behind New Jeans. And if you know anything about me, or if you've been not living under a rock, you know that New Jeans is the face of K-pop right now, the most significant, probably in terms of popularity, but also in terms of critical adoration and excitement in terms of group in K-pop, just having a monster 2023 following up their, amazing debut in the middle of 2022. So the fact that V is working with someone who is quite hot as a creative force in producing K-pop music, and Min Hee Jin, is exciting as well. And long story short, getting into the actual music of Layover, I was, I think, most impressed or at least appreciative of V's intention to do like a true concept album, a true dedication to like following like a real like genre inspiration and following that through, and not doing the throwing paint at the wall and trying a bunch of different things. No, V knew what he wanted to do, and it's not what you necessarily expect because it's not the most commercial leaning stuff. It actually feels like this is music he really likes and wanted to make, and I find that quite admirable. And that would be like this kind of almost jazz-inspired, like lounge singer style R&B music. And it's understated, but also kind of fitting his baritone voice. And I don't necessarily find it like the most exciting music. It's just not designed to be that. So it's not necessarily music I want to revisit just for the nature of what it is. But I was impressed with V actually kind of delving into like a real vision for the music, that smoky lounge singer vibe actually kind of suits him quite well. I was a bit impressed with that decision. I think the single Rainy Days really stands out for that and for this concept. Just, the piano keys, it's a minimal beat, but the way those the piano keys hit that beat, it almost sounds, it makes you think of and feel like rain. And V's vocals kind of, lay it down there for you. It's pretty cool. I thought Slow Dancing was not quite as good as the other single. And then For Us, probably the most interesting song on the record, just because Taehyung's vocals are quite pitched up on that one, I think, to interesting effect. Again, it's only really 5 songs, so it doesn't give you too much time to sit with it here. But it does, I think, leave you wanting more for what, like a fully fledged project from V could be, because even if he's not necessarily the most exciting of the BTS members when it comes to being a soloist, having this vision for a project, and as he's demonstrated a high bar for his own music and his own output, does like leave you thinking like what else could be on the horizon for him. Now I'm not sure if that's coming, before he goes into do his military service. We'll see. Along those lines, I'm certainly hoping Jungkook is giving us a full album and not just one smash hit single before he does his military service. We'll see. He's the youngest member of BTS, so he's got more time technically. But yeah, V, Layover. I think in general, these BTS solo albums have been interesting and unique in their own regard, right? The J-Hope album was a huge breath of fresh air, big surprise. The RM album had a lot to it I loved. Jimin album surprised me with certain songs. Suga, of course, has a lot going on under the hood with him. And then V really surprised me with the vision for Layover. So I think now it's time to anticipate the Jungkook solo album, and I think that'll just be super pop leaning and bangery, because that's what he should do, because he's a massive artist as a soloist, and I'm excited about that. But we'll get to that hopefully soon. Let me know, how did you feel about BTS's V? How would you stack this up against the other BTS solo albums that we've got? And for more K-pop reviews, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. What's up? Welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here with a review of Olivia Rodrigo's second album, Guts. Let's go. We're back. Olivia's back. Been 2.5 years since Olivia's out of nowhere smash debut album Sour came out in May 2021. The last time an artist got catapulted into A-list pop stardom, to be honest. Olivia, off the strength of that album, won 3 Grammy Awards, including Best New Artist, was the best-selling singles artist of 2021, and just before our very eyes, like out of nowhere, you have this fully fledged A-lister. We've had TikTok hits. We've had TikTok stars. Olivia immediately was so much more beyond that, even though, of course, TikTok did help accelerate the success of Driver's License and other Olivia songs. Now, there's a lot of anticipation, a lot of interest in what that second Olivia album would be. Post those 3 Grammys, post her first tour, post concluding her run on High School Musical, the musical, Disney Plus series. What would happen? Well, for one, it turns out Olivia stuck to what she knew, which I think was an amazing decision. She kept it in-house creatively, working with Dan Nigro once again as her chief songwriting partner, producing partner, just like on Sour. Smart idea. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's more than that, though, because I think Guts is better than Sour. This is a very exciting album. I think it's one of the best albums of the year. Definitely one of my favorite albums of the year. I got to listen to this while on vacation in Japan. So like when it dropped, it wasn't actually midnight Eastern time. It was like 1 o'clock in the afternoon for me. So I was just strolling around. I believe I was in Tokyo at the time, and just listening to this song, listening to this album a few times, and be like, man, it's so fun I was having a great time. And yeah, I think Guts is oh so exciting, and I think what's another interesting thing about Guts is sonically Olivia has leaned further into like the punk rock dalliance vibe that she has done. We think back on Sour, of course, the first song, Brutal, which I love. It was actually one of my top 10 songs of 2021. That song gets your attention when the guitar kicks in, right? Of course, Good For You, the smash song that it is, clearly invokes Paramore's Misery Business. Olivia was dabbling in this rock adjacent singer-songwriter pop music. I think that's a key aspect of her brand, right? Because she's a strong songwriter who can give you a ballad, an emotional ballad, a well-written and intriguing, engaging ballad, because she's a very strong writer. And she mixes that with her bigger songs that lean more into this rockish vibe. And that's basically what we get on Guts once again. except I think it's actually more rock leaning this time. And to me, that's a great idea. It was a great choice because it just actually gives you more bangers. I think there's more bangers on Guts, despite the fact that there's still a ton of ballads on Guts. There's a ton of, I think, really meaningful songwriting and ear-grabbing lines and messages on Guts. But yet it's also still a bigger record. And that's despite the fact that it's, relatively brief. It's a normal length for an album. It's 12 songs, 39 minutes. I remember in the lead up to this album, people thought that was somehow short and a sign of Olivia full into TikTok, which I think is completely off base. 40 minutes for an album is completely normal. Look back on, I don't know, Sgt. Pepper's from the Beatles, or when Bruno Mars won a Grammy for 24 Karat Magic. 40-ish minutes is a normal ass album length. Anyone who has anything else to say about that is just wrong and is reaching. Stupid opinion. There's plenty to listen to on Guts. I think there's very few bad songs. If anything, the songs I like the least on Guts are just some of the ballady stuff, just because they're naturally slower tracks, not necessarily the most engaging thing to me, or I guess less engaging than some of the bigger songs. But man, the stuff that hits on Guts really hits, and that's what just makes it so exciting, And one other thing about the lead up to this album, obviously Olivia kind of got raked over the coals by Taylor Swift. We can say it. Olivia had to give Taylor multiple songwriting credits off Sour, and now she's in the place where she has to deny that she has any beef with Taylor Swift, even though really Taylor Swift is the one who hasn't really embraced her all that much. And I think you can see why. Olivia is kind of the first person to really come up who's even somewhat on the Taylor corner in terms of being a singer-songwriter, female vocalist. Obviously, she's 13, 14 years younger, so they're not really playing in the same ballpark per se, but it's been kind of eye-opening to me how she was treated by the Taylor Swift camp, and I think leaning into the punk sound to her bigger songs is a not so overt differentiator for her music in terms of setting it even for a little bit further apart from the Taylor comparisons. And it seems kind of obvious that they have Cold War beef, even if neither one of them is going to talk about it. Doesn't matter. The album's great, and of course Taylor's having an amazing year. Nonetheless, let's think about the lead single for Guts, Vampire. Of course, Olivia Rodrigo lead singles, there's a lot to live up to because Driver's License was, of course, the last one of those. And Vampire, I gotta say, fucking nailed it, man. This is kind of a classic Olivia vibe in terms of the message of a song like Driver's License. It's like deeply personal. And in general, I think the sentiment on Guts is exactly what we hoped it would be, where Olivia, 2 years later, she's done some more living. She's got some more life experience. Again, she's a very young person. And she has some things to say about herself and people she's encountered, right? And it comes across as so genuine and so real. And I think a song like Vampire, man, like, I don't know if it was her or Dan Nigro, a combination of the two of them. We'll give the credit to Olivia. But Vampire, just very engaging messaging like Driver's License. And once again, Olivia is absolutely dragging the fuck out of whoever she's singing about. Like, to me, the sticky lines in Vampire are like iconic lines. Like, these would probably be Hall of Fame, like Olivia Rodrigo lyrics when it's all said and done. Bloodsucker, fame fucker, bleeding me dry like a goddamn vampire. Incredible. That's just incredible songwriting. And in general, Olivia has very quickly become one of, if not the best person in pop music at cursing and saying the F word specifically. I love that just bite that she gives you with profanity, because when she uses it, it's so great. Later on in Vampire, she has the line, girls your age know better. Again, damning. We assume this is about Zach Bia, her ex-boyfriend. Bells for that guy. Take the L. It's over. But yeah, Vampire, like an excellent song through and through. The second single would be Bad Idea Right, which definitely different vibe, right? This is very, very chanty, energetic, up-tempo track. And, I think the song's okay. I hear, like, in the context of it being the second single, I was like, oh, this is the Good For You facsimile. And it's similar, but definitely not quite on the same wavelength as Good For You. It's hard to actually compare them, but in terms of the context of how it came out as a single, that's why I thought that way. And I find the song is just less successful than Vampire, less successful than Good For You for sure. It's okay. I was a bit worried that if that would be like the extent of the punkish nature on songs like Guts, I'd be like, oh, this might not be enough for me this time around. But I was quite thankful that when I actually heard the album and heard the non-singles, that there was more bite on some other tracks. So I'm not really going to be going back to Bad Idea, right, all that much, but it's okay. So yeah, let's get into the actual meat of the album here. Track 1, All American Bitch. God damn. Here's the brutal vibes. You have this acoustic, like soft singing building up, and then the tempo immediately speeds up, the drum kicks in, and the Avril Lavigne comparisons are back. It's amazing. I mean, I love Olivia's screech at the end, but just, I think the juxtaposition of the hook and the chorus with the up-tempo drums and the guitar, like, really jamming, and then you have the verses where it slows down a little bit, and, I think Olivia just kind of rides that instrumentation, rides that production, some really fun verses. The energy on this song is awesome, really great. Just one of my favorite Olivia Rodrigo songs, straight up, I have to say. And also, like, Olivia getting into, towards the end of this song, getting into the, I think, growing self-awareness that she is demonstrating, despite being a very young woman still, with, her perspective, or her place as a public-facing woman in the world. I thought these lines were quite self-aware. I'm grateful all the time. I'm sexy and I'm kind. I'm pretty when I cry. Again, damning writing about how women in the public eye are treated, and women in general. So that's All American Bitch, banger. Bad Idea, right? Track 2. Vampire, track 3. Lacey, track 4. It's fine. A skip for me overall. Track 5. Ballad of a Homeschooled Girl. This one is another punk song. It's up tempo. I think the social suicide hook, very sticky. The second verse kind of giving you a deadpan delivery in a certain sense from Olivia vocally. Like this song a lot. Making the Bed, very strong ballad. I think the lyrical sentiment of what it means, and it's like almost like a double meaning in terms about gender roles, but also her personal, like, use of making the bed as a way to, like, turn the page. I think that's quite well written, logical. Another ballad, some biting lines on that one. And then you have, what is this track? 8, Get Him Back. Here's my favorite song of the album. This song was fire. This is a revenge fantasy song from Olivia. We just got the music video out. Very fun delivery. Absolutely fire chorus. Again, the punk leaning. It's all over this song. So good. Amazing lines, amazing writing on this, and the concept of it, of Olivia kind of flaming this toxic dude, but then also, in a sense, flaming herself for her own flaws and her desires to get this guy back, despite him treating her badly. And yet, what's the line? But I am my father's daughter, so maybe I can fix him. Like, she's in on the joke. She understands that this isn't good, but this is how she is right now. And, like, I think it just makes for a really fun, really great song, very re-listenable. Early on, you have, like, the Short King line, said he's 6'2", and I'm like, dude, nice try. Amazing stuff. Love that. Towards the end with the bridge, like, I want to meet his mom and tell her son sucks. Love that. That will be screamed to high heaven when the song is performed live. The Livies, the Rodrigos will be belting that one out. Yeah, shout out, Get Him Back. That's the one for me. That's the joint. Love is Embarrassing. That song, I like the vocal ticks on that, the guitar, the drums, a really nice one again. The Grudge is kind of a skip for me. Pretty Isn't Pretty is okay. I guess lyrically it's fine, but I didn't really find the song too interesting. And then the last song, Teenage Dream, the closer, a hint of Billie Eilish in her vocal delivery, I have to say. Uh, I like this one. I think lyrically it's a really nice fitting uh, message. Also, the song, of course, would invoke Katy Perry, and it's kind of very different in terms of what the lyrics mean on this song. Nice juxtaposition, nice reference, I have to say. But yeah, I mean, Olivia Rodrigo, there's really no one to compare her to right now. She just has the runway. Like obviously her musical peers in terms of age would be someone like Billie Eilish, obviously, but Billie and Olivia are operating in very different circles, and I'm sure they're happy to keep it that way. You know, the comparison in terms of the singer songwriter stuff again would be Taylor, but again, she's so much younger, and all the other big pop stars of our time, who again are a fair amount older than Olivia, but they're making more like vocal driven, like big pop, artists like Ariana or Dua, you know. So Olivia is an exciting artist in that regard because she is kind of doing a thing no one else is really doing right now. And to be reductive, combining Taylor Swift and Avril Lavigne, it's exciting because the results are there. It's good, I'll be curious to see what size of a tour she does next time around. She kind of like almost notoriously toured smaller rooms, smaller venues on that first tour in 2021. And of course, the resale prices were crazy when that tour came out. I'm sure that'll be the case again this year, but I'm curious if she's going to go a slight step up or just go right to arenas because she is definitely an arena artist at this point. This album's going to sell 300,000 first week, including significant number of real tangible sales. So she is that big at this point. It'd be interesting if the same reasoning with her wanting to take it step by step would lead to her maybe doing just kind of bigger rooms, like and not the full arena yet. I can't imagine she would leave all that money on the table, given that she signed the Geffen Records. They'll have some input on that. We'll see, but yeah. I mean, I this will be a fixture at the Grammys. So actually, the Grammy cutoff for 2024 is September 15th. So this is probably the last significant album to come out in the lead up to the 2024 Grammys, which means Olivia will go head to head with Taylor Swift's Midnights at the Grammys. Olivia will have recency bias on her side in the voting. I would vote for Guts over Midnights myself, given the year Taylor Swift has had with Eras Tour. Hard to pick against her, but that'll be an interesting subplot we will get to in due time. If you're into the Grammys, make sure you subscribe. YouTube.com/nostalgiapod. I'm doing all my predictions for the nominations and the winners when the time is right. But of course, let me know, how are you feeling about Olivia Rodrigo's second album, Guts? Did you love it as much as I did? Do you like it more than Sour, like I do? What is your favorite song? And for more pop reviews, more music reviews, subscribe. And I'll see you next time. What's up? Welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here with a review of No More Bets, the latest Chinese blockbuster film to get a small release here in the United States. Of course, No More Bets is a crime thriller film from Shen Oh, and this film kind of came out of nowhere to gross over $500 million almost exclusively in China about a month ago in early August. And I was quite invested and interested in this and happy to see it get a quick release here in the States. I've reviewed a handful of blockbusters, honestly, most of the significant blockbusters of the year from China, Full River Red and Wandering Rift 2, Born to Fly, Hidden Blade, Lost in the Stars, and now No More Bets. And it's been interesting and fun to kind of analyze and see what the most popular movies are out of the now biggest movie market in the world. And it's definitely been interesting. And I generally I liked No More Bets. I thought this was quite fun. It's a crime thriller film. I think the thriller aspects of No More Bets are some of the strongest things about it, and the premise itself also is quite engaging. This is a story about, set in modern times, about, a few characters who are lured from China, lured overseas to an unnamed, Southeast Asian country to basically forced to participate in a fraud factory, broad systematic scam operation to take advantage of other people back in China and steal their money effectively, primarily through the use of fixed online casino games, but also involving other things like cryptocurrency and betting and whatnot, and the stock market and things of that nature. Um, and we kind of have two central characters that are uh, deceived into being in the scheme, lured to this what they think is a lucrative new job opportunity, but is in fact almost slave-like imprisonment to participate in this scheme. You have Peng Seng, played by Lei Zhang. He is like a young, talented computer programmer, and the other character is Liang Anna, played by Gina Jin, who is this model, and they both quickly get wrapped up in this unfortunate circumstance for themselves. And the movie has a bit of a nonlinear structure where we see these characters' backstories and how they got to where they are in terms of being in the scheme. And I think that is broadly effective. And again, the thriller aspects of them being in the scheme, seeing the scheme in operation, the scam in operation, and seeing these characters try and find a way to escape without being caught, because that could mean severe pain, dismemberment, or even death, right? And that's all good. I think what's my least favorite aspect about No More Bets would be the third kind of central character we spend time with, and that would be Gu Zhanzi, played by Darren Wong, who is a gambling addict who gets taken advantage of by this scheme and spirals and spirals and spirals out, taking all of his family members' money and just ruining his life, despite actually being a talented, recent college graduate and smart person. And unfortunately, like, we also spend time with this character's backstory, spend a lot of time with his storyline in general, and watching him be a gambling addict and be self-destructive in that regard, like, he's just not a fun personality to be with in terms of how he treats the people close to him that are trying to help him. Like, it's a tough watch, and it's a tough ending for that character as well. And unfortunately, like, there's other aspects to his character that just kind of keep like following through with the story of No More Bets. We encounter Song Yu, played by Zhou Yi, who's his girlfriend, and she becomes a big advocate for taking down, online scam operations and things of that nature. That's kind of our introduction into Zhao Donggran, who is the cop character who's gonna like bust this whole operation, even though it's overseas and outside of Chinese police jurisdiction. And it's just kind of frustrating because like all that stuff it's quite melodramatic with the family elements. All that stuff just distracts from the core thriller element with our other two lead characters. That is the most interesting thing about it. And I think you actually just kind of the film got made a little bit too complicated. It's kind of added a few too many characters in it. And I think if we spent more time with the core scam, it would have been, I think, a bit more effective, just because the thriller nature of this movie like kind of grinds to a quick halt. And there's a very overt scene where you have the police officers all in meeting, and it's like, again, a grand message about how the party will stomp out corruption and take these scam companies down. And it's one of those kind of obligatory things we get in these Chinese movies where there has to be some kind of like moralistic messaging that makes the party look good and makes the country look good and things of that nature. And it's not that there's anything wrong with that message. Taking down online scams, good cause, but it's just so heavy-handed in the movie and also quite unnecessary. Like, we don't need the movie to beat us over the head with the fact that we don't like the people behind the scam. We already got that, especially when this movie spends so much time showing you a gambling addict spiral and how it affects all the people close to him. We didn't also need like the government will make sure this doesn't happen to you part. Like, it's this is probably one of the most like more annoying aspects of this. Sometimes you get like those brief scenes in a Chinese blockbuster, and it's like you could roll your eyes at it, but it doesn't really get in the way. That one again doesn't get in the way, but I was like, man, this is just so unnecessary as a messaging device. And then the movie kind of concludes with again like messaging about like the perils of gambling, as if this movie needs to like hold the audience's hand after everything we had just seen. Like I don't think it treats the audience with enough respect and like really hammers it home that that's what this movie is about. It's a bit frustrating. But yeah, I think the thriller aspects of it are fun, and in general, it's quite well made and enjoyable. And yeah, I think you understand why this was a big blockbuster, because it is a pretty riveting movie when you spend times in the riveting parts of it. And I think this movie could have really shined if it kind of focused in on that. I saw one publication refer to it as like a Chinese Wolf of Wall Street. It's not really like that, because it's not at any point like talking about or presenting the fun aspects of being a crook, in this case being an online scammer taking advantage of people. Like, it doesn't have that point of view at all, because the whole time you're with people that are participating in this scam against their will to survive. So like it's not really applicable to Wolf of Wall Street at all, in my opinion. But yeah, No More Bets, pretty engaging. Again, this will have a very limited release in the States and then eventually be available on streaming and VOD. So hard to see for most people, but I think if you're interested in seeing other types of filmmaking and what you're getting and what's also being widely consumed across the world, it is fun to check in on these, the top tier of the Chinese blockbusters. I always find them, I think, pretty well made, and the big ones are also pretty engaging. So check my reviews out on some of the other Chinese blockbuster films that have come out this year. I'd say probably my favorite of them thus far would be Full River Red, followed by Born to Fly, and then probably No More Bets, number 3. But you let me know how'd you feel about No More Bets, and for more movie reviews, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. All right, that's going to do it for the pod this week. Next week, excited to talk about the GameStop meme stock movie, Dumb Money, which looks great. Can't wait to get into that. It's kind of got an early release coming out. Going to catch that. Nas and Hit Boy are releasing their final album together, culminating, this amazing run they've been on the past 3 years. Very exciting. The latest Kenneth Branagh, Agatha Christie mystery film, A Haunting in Venice, is out. Going to talk about that. New music from Polo G and Vic Mensa as well. And HBO's Winning Time, Season 2, wrapping up. So I think a lot of good stuff to get to there. We're really getting into the swing of things with movies, too, as the fall kicks up. A lot of exciting things on the horizon. So make sure you subscribe, youtube.com/nostalgiapod, linktree.com/nostalgiapod. Get the pod any way you can. Just make sure you get it. And of course, see the link below for the best of 2023 Spotify playlist for my favorite songs of the year. And I'll see you next week.